I'm a huge Richard Sherman fan, so when he talks, he's one of the more intelligent players, not only on the field as a football player, but off the field. Now, the one thing about these CBA discussions that go on between the players and the owners, as coaches, man, we're in that pool right there. And so when that segment was going on, I thought she's going to ask me, do I agree with it? Doesn't matter what I think relative to this topic. I do think it's a little ironic, though, that the focal point is player health and safety, and we've made strides in that area. But this is about more money for the players and how do they get that money. And so I'm not going to say they're hypocritical, but I understand the point the player has, and it's just a matter of the money you want to pay for that.
I understand. Yeah. I understand the point that he's making as well, but I respectfully disagree with him. The fact of the matter is, the NFL, everybody acknowledges, has been working on elevating the level of safety and addressing the safety issue. As they said, it is not a crime for the business of football to say, excuse me, we're trying to address this concern, while at the same time, we're trying to make more money for all of us. The reality is that in the world of business, when you negotiate, no one gets everything they want. You have to give and you have to take. And the fact of the matter is that the NFL is going to continue to try to make money. Now, if they make money and the players don't get any of it, that's a different argument. But if they're making money and the players are making money while still trying to address the concerns, I don't think it makes them hypocritical.
I also disagree with Richard Sherman, but only on the hypocritical point, because is anyone under the impression that the NFL really, really cared about player safety before it started costing them money? I mean, they were if an organization suppresses information, suppresses science from getting out into the press, until there's so much pressure to bear that it's affecting their bottom line, and then they do it, it's always about making money. And let me tell everyone something. Football's bad for your health. The more you play it, the more dangerous it is. We still love to watch it. I love the fight game. It's the same thing. It's just you have to accept that that's part of the bargain. So the more football you play, the more money they make, the less safe it is for the players. But believe that everything the NFL does is based on the bottom line. Even player safety, the concern in terms of how it's actionable is based on how they feel it's going to affect their bottom line.
All right, but you know what? You make a great point, though, Max. I think what's happening now is you're seeing players look at it like this. You're seeing players retire earlier and earlier. Players are making a lot more money earlier in their careers than they ever have. And players are not ignorant. Players are very intelligent as far as what are the long-term ramifications of my health the longer I play this football game. And people say, well, it's only just one more game per season. Well, over a 10-year career, that's 10 more games. That's 10 more opportunities to get your bell rung. And we're not even talking about the unreported concussions that happen every play. And you're right, as players, we all accept it. We know that on every play when you're hitting your head, it's not healthy. But that's what we do. That's what they do. That's what players are willing to go ahead and sacrifice. But at what point is enough enough? And that's really what Richard's trying to say. At what point is enough enough? We're smarter now than we've ever been. Do we really need this 17th game?
Yeah, but but my retort to that would be, if you're forcing it upon me, that's one thing. If we're collectively bargaining and negotiating and you're saying, okay, you want this money, and we're saying this is what we want in return, then you take it or leave it. You can sit up there and nix it, but what you can't do is accuse the league of hypocrisy if we're negotiating something.
No, that's not true, Stephen A., because what the players are doing in a CBA is negotiating. There's a pie. Here's the money. The players just want a bigger slice of it. The owners are the ones saying, we want to put an artificial restraint on how much percentage we'll give you because we can't trust ourselves.
That's a different subject.
You know, right?
Really,
that's a different subject.
So, no, but the point is, so when they say, fine, you'll get more money, but now let's play an extra game, what the owners are really saying is, we're not going to give you a bigger slice of the pie.
Without
what
getting
we
something
will
in return.
do is make the pie bigger. That's all they're saying.
Without getting something in return. Without getting something in return. Which is last time I checked this business anywhere you
get things in return, it doesn't need to be a bigger pie.
Look, players are smarter now.
He's got to get past Elway and Favre, and he's got to get past man. Listen, we see his traits, and he's been phenomenal.
Coach, I'm not saying GOAT. I'm not saying accomplished.
Let the coach speak.
I'm saying who at his best is better than this.
Listen, we've seen these guys we've just talked about. I mean, we're talking about Brady, who's got 6 of these rings, and but he's obviously the talent that we're all talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing. You want discussion and argument. Here's the deal. Either of these guys win this game, they take all the money at the table, they go home. They take it all. Yeah. And then they take the chairs and the table with them, too.
Lewis, have you ever seen, you're a huge Mahomes, you were the guy pulling the bandwagon at first, a player, if it's Marino, if it's Peyton Manning, who is performing on the level
here's the interesting thing. It's funny you mentioned that. My very first start in the NFL came against the Miami Dolphins and Dan Marino, when they had Mark Clayton and Mark Duper and Keith Jackson. And Dan Marino walked up to the line of scrimmage, and he stood there at the line, and he looked over at me, and he winked, and I was like, oh, boy. What does this mean? I've seen Dan Marino. I've seen the ball come out of his hand where all he did was flick his wrist, and it went 50 yards. He was a prodigy. The problem was he never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
That's why we don't talk about him the same way we talk about John and we talk about Joe and talk about Tom. Dan won one Super Bowl. We talk about him in a totally different light. Right. That's why this game, Jimmy Garoppolo has a ton to gain by winning this. And as Coach just said, he takes all the money, the chairs, the table, and he shuts down the joint. And he goes, don't ever disrespect me again if I win this.
Mm-hmm. Coach, do you think we're underrating Jimmy G?
No, I don't think we're underrating him. Look, this guy, I've followed, he's from my alma mater, Eastern Illinois, New England Patriots. We practiced against him. His job description's a little different than this other guy, and that's the scheme of the team. All right? Now, there's been always that question mark. I feel like he's answered some of those this season, much like, and I'm not going to compare him to Cousins, but Cousins had to, and unfortunately it came in our game, but I like what I've seen from Garoppolo. Now, is it to his advantage to get in a 45-40 shootout with the other guy? No, that's not the game.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree.
If it were to happen and he answered that call,
absolutely.
I'm like, wait a minute. We already talk about Patrick Mahomes in this regard.
Right.
If Jimmy G answers the call on offense by going off, throwing for over 400 yards, he's flinging the ball all over the field. It's like, what?
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.